Hi, welcome to the next video in my series about how to create an illustration step by step. This video is kind of like a step 1.5 or something like that. It's in between the first step, which we just did, brainstorming for your illustration, and the next step, which is going to be about thumbnailing. But before we move on to that, I just wanted to take a little bit of time in this video to talk about picture arranging.
Like that?
Try one on top of the other. Go to the left. No. Go to the right. No, not that much. Back. Move down a little. No, this isn't working. So it's actually not that kind of picture arranging. When I say picture arranging, I mean composition. Composition is how we arrange stuff on our picture plane. The picture plane is that square or rectangle or whatever it is that you're creating your picture on. And the stuff that we're arranging are the elements of design. They are line, shape, value, color, and texture. Value, in case you don't know, is light and dark. So a black and white picture could also be considered maybe like a value picture. So there's a few rules you can use to arrange your elements on your picture more effectively so that you're creating something that really communicates with your viewer. They can also be called the principles of design. And I'm then going to refer to you at the end another video that's really good about composition that uses the principles but describes them in a different way, because I think that it could be helpful to hear more than one perspective on the matter. So let's get started. The first rule is number 1, make sure you have a good focal point. This painting by Vermeer, I think does well at that. The focal point is this girl, and I think that's interesting because we're looking at her back. Can kind of see a reflection in this mirror up here of her face. Some of the reasons I think that are because, for one thing, he's looking at her, and a lot of the lines in the picture are leading toward her. We kind of look at that spot the most from the way things are set up. Also, she is kind of in this central spot, and we have like this mirror that helps frame her, all of those things. I would say that Vermeer mostly made this the focal point by using lines and composition to show us what was the most important. Number 2, make sure parts of your picture are more important than the others. So I'm going to call this dominant. Dominant versus subordinate. So there's going to be stuff that's more important than other things in the picture. So a very dominant area where there's patterns in this picture. So like this is all in pattern, the floor has a pattern, the windows all have a pattern, and this has a pattern. Anyway, lots of decorative areas, and it's contrasting against like these areas that are very open, and there's nothing there. This picture also has a lot of dominant straight lines. So like the table, the chair, the instrument that she's playing, I have no idea what it is, the pictures on the walls, the walls and the windows, all those lines are kind of dominant. But then there's some subordinate curvy lines. Obviously the figures are curved, this pot is curved, and the cello or bass, it looks probably like a bass, but is kind of curvy, and so is this tablecloth. And I think the main important thing of dominant versus subordinate is that some stuff needs to be more important. So when you're working, you're going to give emphasis to more like, and put more like detail and all of that kind of stuff, effort into certain parts of your picture, and other parts of your picture are going to be less important. Number 3, create good rhythms in your picture. Rhythm is how things are kind of spaced out around your picture, and there's kind of a rhythm between like this, and then the chair and the cello. And this is a very like a rhythm. Like if this was music, these would all be quarter notes, and this would maybe have like an 8th note in it. Does that make sense? So like just like with music, you don't want it to be like boring, like da 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 all over your picture. You also don't want it to be like too crazy. So you just kind of want to think through like how things are sitting. Number 4 is to make sure you have a good balance. In this one, there's a lot of heavy stuff over on this side of the picture. The table, the chair, the people, all of that stuff. And if he had just left this as like a flat wall, or a wall with maybe like windows that didn't have this pattern or this like dark column, then it would feel like off kilter. But because like this dark column and these like lines and patterns right here are here, it sort of balances it out from side to side. Number 5 is use overlapping shapes. This is important because it shows us depth. So obviously we know that this table is in front of this chair because the chair is behind it, and we know that these guys are behind the chair and the base and the table and the cello. We know that this pot is more in the foreground. Overlapping shapes also help avoid tangents. So the fact that his shoulder right here overlaps this picture is good. If his shoulder didn't overlap, and it just went there, and then the picture they met, that would make a tangent, and tangents kind of trap your eye and keep you stuck. So you don't want that. Like this actually is a tangent right here, where the top of her head hits the top of this. That's bad. We don't want that. So I would say it would have been better to have her head come up above it a little bit, or to have some room. So like maybe the case is a little bit taller. Just having the bravery enough to like put stuff that overlaps your main characters. We have these 2 main characters and there's all this stuff in front. It just makes it really interesting. Number 6 is use contrast to create interest. So we've talked about this a little bit because we have contrasting patterns against blank wall space. We have contrasting straight lines versus curved lines. So you can pretty much contrast any of the elements of design, like line, shape, color, texture, any of those things. And number 7, design your negative shapes as well as your positive ones. So we usually, when we're drawing, we think about the positive shape, which like the girl right here is a positive shape. And that's important to have like a good positive shape. There she is. That's a shape, okay? And he's a shape, right? Those are interesting shapes. But then there's these other shapes, which are the negative shapes. So if you look at the blank wall space, you have this shape. And that makes a really interesting shape. So it's interesting that like this part is wider than this part that's not centered. The next picture I have is this picture by Leyendecker. So let's just go through the rules and see how he did. So the first one is to have a focal point, and I would say that the focal point is this kid's face. And one of the ways that you can tell that easily is because all of the other characters are looking at him. The mom's looking at him, the doctor, and the dog are all looking right here. And then he made that part really interesting. He has a great expression, and he's also this silhouetted shape right here with this big brown shape that's sort of framing him and making him stand out and be more interesting. So check, he has a good focal point. Next is dominant versus subordinate. Obviously the background is mostly just white except for the mom's shadow. That kind of helps give your eyes a place to rest. He also used this doctor, the shape of him here in the front. It kind of dominates the picture. And then you have these other shapes that are more subordinate. Number 3 is rhythm. So if you look at like the fingers, it's an interesting rhythm. It's like da-da, da-da, right? JC Leyendecker is amazing at folds. So he had these folds. So it's like do, 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 do. Does that make sense? So he's just thinking about these. He's like thinking, you know, what is going to make these folds more interesting? How can I design them to tell me that they're folds and also be cool to look at? Even the dog's hair, you can see you have, and then like a rest, and then another rest. And you can just see that that rhythm is really interesting going down the side of the dog's leg. Well, the next one, balance. I would say this picture has a great balance. If you divide it in half, you can see that it's balanced with the kid and the dog in the bed, and those are all smaller shapes, but because he's the focal point, that also holds a little more weight. And then over here, you have this small shape and the 2 bigger shapes. He's a huge, big brown shape, but then over here, there's like the quilt and the rug that have all that pattern on it, and that sort of balances things out too. If you take out any of the elements of the picture, like if the dog wasn't there, it would definitely feel heavier over here. And if the mom wasn't there, it would feel heavier over here. Number 5, overlapping shapes. This one is great at overlapping shapes. It's awesome that even though the kid is the focal point right here, the doctor is this huge shape that overlaps him. There's some things that are obvious that we need to overlap, like the dog leaning his head onto the bedspread. You couldn't really draw that without the dog overlapping the bedspread somehow. But being brave enough to overlap this huge doctor shape in front of the kid and the bed is good. Next one, contrast. There's a great contrast in the focal point between the kid's face and the bed headboard, because of the color, because of the value, because of the detail in his face versus the like relatively restful spot back there where the headboard is. There's contrast between the bed spread with the quilted blocks and the sheets that are white, contrast between the rug and the doctor, and he doesn't have any pattern on him, just those brown. Anyway, you can see it everywhere. And then negative shapes. There is some great negative shapes in here that are designed. So you have this whole shape right here is really interesting and cool, and it could have been completely different. The dog paws might not have been in the right spot or whatever. You just kind of have to look at those shapes and see what you can do. This negative shape is really interesting. And then of course there's right here, like he worked to make sure that this chair was at the right angle and his coat was hanging over to make a shape that would be more interesting back there. So we have this whole negative shape. So he did a great job designing those negative shapes. Okay, I hope looking at some of those pictures was helpful for you. Composition is kind of a complicated thing, and this was just a quick overview. So I have a few resources that you can use to kind of study up on it more and get better and better at it all the time. The first one is this booklet. It's called Beginning Composition. I use it with my art classes that I teach. So if you've never done any type of learning about composition before, I recommend going and downloading this. It's available to all of my patrons at the $5 or higher level. It just goes through all of those principles and elements that we just talked about and gives you activities you can do to kind of practice, get them more firmly in your brain so you can think about them as you're planning your illustration. Some books that I love about composition are, this one first is called Picture This by Molly Bing, and it is really great at explaining just how a picture works. She uses basic, simple shapes like this and describes over on this page like how they work together and why certain things are happening in the picture. It's really nicely explained and broken down, so when you read it you can think about it and apply it to what you're trying to do. And then I also really love this book, Framed Ink. It's a little bit more detailed about composition than the Picture This book, but they work well together, I think. So he just goes through explaining again like different ways to think about pictures and how they work. Oh, I really like this page. So here's an example of a page where he has two characters in the picture basically in the same position, but he changes the shapes in the background and the lighting to tell different stories. So if you're interested in any kind of narrative art, I recommend both of these books. Next time we're going to take the principles and elements that we talked about today and we're going to thumbnail out, and I'm going to show you how I use those as I'm planning my thumbnails. And we'll take the ideas that we brainstormed last time for the Rumpelstiltskin illustration and turn them into little pictures that we can then turn into our awesome giant illustration later on. And then if you have any questions or comments about composition or design, I'd love for you to post those below as well. It's really fun to see your questions and answer them when I can, and just to know if these videos are being helpful for you. So thanks so much for watching, and I think that's it. Have a lovely day. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to head over to talesfantastic.com, you can sign up for the newsletter, which comes every 2 weeks and is full of awesome advice on creativity, and it has a free story download in it. Thanks so much for watching.